We are moving into our first writing assignment, which I'm really excited about. If you haven't yet gone to assignment one and reviewed the instructions, please head on over there. You can navigate to it on the toolbar on the left side of your Blackboard screen. There should just be a little link there that says assignments, and the instructions for your first writing assignment are there. It is not a research paper, so you won't need to visit the library. You won't need to, look up any sources online. To complete this writing assignment, you need to go view a work of art in person in a professional gallery or museum setting. So this shouldn't be student artwork, and this shouldn't be art that's just like hanging in buildings around upstate. It needs to be in a gallery. There is a list of galleries at the end of the assignment that are in Spartanburg and Greenville, and then a few museums that are sort of a little farther out regionally. However, just because a museum or gallery in your area is not on that list does not mean that it doesn't mean you can't use it for this assignment. So if you have a question about where you plan to visit, if you're joining us, from farther away and taking all your classes online this semester, please just let me know, and I can let you know if it's good. So tonight's actually kind of cool because the third Thursday of every month in Spartanburg is Art Walk. So all the galleries and museums are open later. They're usually open until about 8 o'clock. So if you're able to go look at some art tonight, today's a great time to do that. Spartanburg Art Museum will be open. The Johnson Collection downtown will be open. West Main Artist Co-op, which is now called the Artist Collective of Spartanburg, will be open. And then Wofford College has some really great galleries and some great exhibits that are open right now. And one of them actually features work from the Johnson collections. That's pretty cool. However, all these spaces have hours, throughout the week. So just check their websites for any updates on what their hours are right now and any requirements that you may expect. You do need to take a picture of the art that you will be discussing. So go ahead and snap a picture of it, and then also take a selfie of yourself with the art. Just be careful that you're respecting the art. Don't use flash, don't get up super close and touch the art. So just follow whatever the rules are that are posted in the gallery. Trying to think of what else. Would love for you to finish reading chapters 4 through 7 before you start on this assignment. There's some really important formal terminology in chapters 4 through 7, and without that vocabulary, it's going to be really hard for you to describe the work in a professional and academic way. You are required to use at least 4 different formal terms. Be sure that they're terms that make sense with the artwork. If you're talking about an abstract artwork, a lot of abstract shapes that are flat colors and there's not really any depiction of light and shadow, it's not going to make sense for you to discuss value. Also, when you are using that formal terminology, be sure that you're actually using it and you're not just dropping those words into your assignment. So you're not going to want to just say this painting has lines, this painting has many colors, this painting has light and shadow. That doesn't give me any information. You're going to want to utilize those words in effective sentences. So I'm going to be posting an example analysis today. Please read through that and please don't copy it because I'm going to be able to tell, but shows how you can use that language in a sentence. I am asking that you discuss a painting for this assignment. Our reading hasn't delved super far into 3D artworks yet, installation-based artworks yet. So it's really important to me that we talk about a painting for this one. So 1, you're following instructions, and 2, we're able to discuss the work as thoroughly as possible with the language that we have at our grasp right now. So right now, I'm actually going to discuss a painting with you. It's a painting that is in my personal collection at home. I'm actually in my home studio where I make art. So it's kind of messy, so apologies for that. But this is a painting that I actually purchased in the last year. I'm really excited about it. It's by a local Spartanburg artist. Let me scoot over so you can see it. Her name is Chris Kaminick. She works with acrylic as well as collage. So for our work to be a painting, it doesn't necessarily have to be comprised completely of paint. However, it is utilizing painting as its predominant meaning, and then predominant medium, and then incorporating other mediums with it. I saw this painting actually in a show at the Artist Guild of Spartanburg at the Chapman Cultural Center earlier this year, and I just loved it so much. So when you go to the gallery or museum, you will see the work on the wall, and there'll usually be a little tag next to it. That tag is going to give you information that you need for your project. First of all, it's going to let you know whether it's a painting or not if you're not sure. So it'll usually list the medium. So this painting is made of acrylic paint and then mixed materials. So it has collaged elements from magazines on it. The tag will also list the artist's name. It'll also usually list the year that the artwork was made. So that can help us sometimes put things into context. If something was made 100 years ago, we might be able to draw a conclusion as far as like the subject matter and the content as it connects to things that were happening in the world at that time. That's another thing that I'd love to talk about is content versus subject matter. So there's actually a question on quiz 1 that you guys probably, hopefully most of you have taken by now. But what is content versus what is subject matter? Subject matter is what you see when you look at the artwork. So looking at this painting, the subject matter is 2 trolls, and they are staring out at a fantasy landscape. So the subject matter is a landscape, and then I would say these are the 2 main characters. The content, and you could include other things in the subject matter like Eiffel Tower, volcano, mountains, but when there's so many different elements, you can also kind of, summarize. It's a fantasy landscape. The content, though, is going to be a deeper meaning. It's going to be more metaphorical. It's going to be, connected to the mood that the artist is trying to portray. And I would say for me with this one, the content might be adventure. These 2 cute little trolls are getting ready to go on adventure. They have the whole world out before them. This painting was made this year, so we might even connect it to the pandemic and these trolls feeling like they're venturing out into the world for the first time after being, locked at home and quarantined. So they have the whole world before them. So I would say the subject matter, trolls in a fantasy landscape, and then the content would be, possibility and those kinds of things. Again, content is interpreted by each viewer individually, so there's no one exact answer, but that's kind of how I interpret this one. Some things to talk about with this. Texture is a great one. So we have 2 different kinds of texture. We have visual texture and actual texture. Visual texture is when an artist is able to describe the texture of their subject matter without actually creating physical texture. So physical texture is when something is actually 3D. It has tactility to it. Visual texture is when an artist is able to portray that tactility but on a 2-dimensional scale with flatness. So I think the artist actually has done a really good job portraying the texture of the water. It really feels like it has ripples, the texture of these leaves, these stones here, those really do feel like they have texture. That's all going to be visual texture because it is actually flat. However, if we move up here, the artist has actually incorporated crumpled paper and created some physical texture. So if I were to touch it, I would feel that texture. It is actually sticking off the canvas. Again, over to these mountains, she's used a palette knife to really layer on the paint. There's actual texture being incorporated in the work there. So actual texture is going to be texture that exists in 3D space, like these mountains, like these, green space over here. And then visual texture is going to be texture that's an illusion, like the water. So that's a really great element of design to discuss with this one. When we talk about color with this painting, I would say that she used a very vibrant color palette. We're not kind of honing in on one color family. We've got this really deep blue that makes us think of the ocean. And then we've got really high contrast colors against the blue, like these reds of the balloons. Um, Not really like a muted color palette. It's very, very vibrant. Um, and so think about that when you're looking at your piece. If you have a painting that's using all blues, just different shades of the same color, we would call that a monochromatic color palette. If you have a painting that's using predominantly yellows and oranges and reds, we would call that a very warm color palette. I would say that this painting leans more towards the cool side just because we do have such a large expanse that's covered in blue. However, we do have these very warm moments of like orange with the lava, orange over here with the plains, with this tornado, um, these red balloons and the hair, which is orange and pink. Those things really contrast and pop against the cool blue of the water there. Another thing that we could talk about is line. So line is not something that just functions as a mark on a page. Line also has directionality. It can help us move around the composition of a work of art. So even though these trolls are sort of front and center, we are able to move our eyes around the canvas because of the way the artist has utilized directional lines. So you can see there. The artist has connected this little island, this little cliff that they're on, to this other island over here using a bridge. That is a diagonal directional line. So when we're looking at the painting, we sort of go here first because those are our main characters, our kind of heroines, hero and heroine. And then our eye goes over here because of this diagonal. And then we have another diagonal up here by way of this road, which takes us up here. And then we even are traveling this way with implied lines. So lines don't always have to be in space, depicted, actually depicted for there to be a line. So there is a small line here with this little bridge that carries us over here. This over here, we have a line here, but there's also just implied line by this kind of mass of land over here. We do see actual line with this kind of curving little river she has there, but implied line is definitely something to think about. We sort of have this diagonal that's going this whole way with the way that things are laid out on this composition. So think about implied lines, directional lines, those kinds of things. If you're looking at an abstract painting that's entirely comprised of lines, we might talk a lot about line variety. So that's something that we talk about. So with this one, we've talked about color so far. We've talked about line. We've talked about texture. Another thing that we've talked about is the color temperature and sort of the mood of the artwork. I would say that the mood is, very sort of effervescent and fun. It doesn't necessarily feel like a sad artwork. Another thing that we could talk about is narrative. And the narrative kind of goes along with the story that the artist is telling. We could also talk about shadow. So even though the artist doesn't have a ton of areas that are necessarily like describing very dramatic shifts in light and dark, we do have a shift from day to night up here. So over here by the mountains, we have this very, sort of bright blue sky, and the artist has faded that into a starry sky over here. So she has created a shift in value for us there. We also see that with the water. The water kind of fades from this very brilliant blue into a darker blue over in this corner. So we see the water shifting in value and tone from this very bright blue to this darker blue over there. So that does make sense for us to discuss in this work. We can also talk about illusion. So the artist is using the blue to describe the sky up here, but then that blue kind of also fades into the ocean. So there is this kind of ambiguity. We don't have a horizon line there, but we still understand what's going on. So there's a lot of really cool devices that this artist is using. Um, Hopefully that was helpful for you in sort of analyzing a work. I'm obviously talking to you in stream of consciousness, and so that might be something that you want to do when you go view the work. You could record yourself on your phone and then bring in those notes and articulate them into your 1 to 2 page analysis. Another thing you could do is just take notes with a pencil and paper while you're there. But obviously, you will have the image that you take while you're at the art museum or gallery that you can use to reference when you are writing your 1 to 2 page analysis. Hopefully, that was helpful for you guys. I'm really excited about this semester, excited to read what you write, and excited about what I'm seeing posted in these discussion forums so far. I hope you guys are having a great week so far. Don't forget to post in discussion 1 and turn in your chapters 1 through 3 quiz by Friday this week. And I hope you have a great rest of your week and weekend. Thanks.